Hello, Secret Keepers. After 20 months of work, Danny and I launched our game, X Seekers of Fortune, on Kickstarter. We're going to go over the first day rallies and leveling up our live show game, all in the pursuit of bringing our game to more people. That and so much more on today's episode of the Megamoth Studios Super Secret Podcast. Shh. Please tell everybody about our Kickstarter. Welcome back to the show, Secret Keepers. I'm your host, wondering when I can turn off this charm, Joel Watts, joined as always by
Danny, working on my breathing exercises, trying to stay grounded.
Oh yeah, I've been needing to stay grounded myself too, because we are in the middle of our Kickstarter, and that's what we're going to be talking about on today's episode. It's going to be our first live on Kickstarter, and where do we go from here? But first, let's just keep the traditions up, kind of some familiarity to keep us grounded, just like the breathing exercises. So let's start with a question of the week.
Okay, I find that ungrounding, but fine, whatever.
Okay. Well, Danny, with the launch of our Kickstarter, we have started a new leg of our game design journey. But what is a narrative journey or a franchise you are glad to be done with, even if there are still entries being released?
So something that I'm glad to be done with, even if there's still entries to be released.
Mm-hmm. With the way that franchises work these days, you kind of basically have to choose when you jump off and decide that you're done with them.
Yeah, that's a great question. Geez. I mean, I guess the low-hanging fruit is Harry Potter. When I was younger, I started reading Harry Potter when I was 10. And it was age appropriate. And I grew up with it. So I really was into it by the 7th book. I never really thought the movies were that good. But I enjoyed the books. But now, and after the 7th book, I could care less about anything else that's been created in that universe. I might go to the theme park just to enjoy it, and wander around for the experience of it. But I don't want to read another Harry Potter book. I don't want to see another Harry Potter TV show. Although I hear that they're rebooting it on HBO, I'll probably watch that just to see. But I would be just as soon happy to never, engage with anything Harry Potter related ever again.
It's almost a curiosity at this point. You're just going to tune in just to see, did they do it well or not? And
yeah, because I heard that Crispin Glover is directing it.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
the guy from Back to the Future who directed two of the most disturbing films that I've laid eyes on.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Wow, that is out of left field. I did not know that information about the Harry Potter TV show. So now consider me interested, because you could say at the very least that man is an auteur, maybe could be considered an art terrorist or something to that effect. That is wild.
Casting completely unknowns.
Well, I mean, they're kids, so I'm not surprised there. But if you tell me that Snape is going to be an unknown and Dumbledore, that's a little shocking.
Yeah, everyone, just complete unknown people.
Because it's like you have a hard time being a good actor and making it up to Dumbledore's age without having been somewhat known. I mean, unless he's going to people who have only acted on stage or something like that. But we'll see.
I think it's purely people without acting experience.
I'm starting to feel the troll. This can't be true.
No, let's move on.
Okay. Well,
what's your answer?
I think your answer of Harry Potter is a really good one, because I've had that opinion. I closed that 7th book. I didn't even watch the last 2 films, even though I was okay with the films. I think from the 3rd film onward, they were all pretty good for adult sensibilities, or young adult sensibilities. But I didn't even need to read or to watch the movies after I finished the final book, because I agree. Once you finish that book, it's done. It's it's something that you have with you, but you don't need to keep carrying along with.
I don't think the movies added anything to Harry Potter, right? Sometimes you watch a movie and it adds some dynamic. I feel like Harry Potter was not improved by making movies about it.
Yeah, I think visually, you could at the least you could say like they visualize some of the concepts really well here and there, but it's not.
Here and
I
there.
don't. Yeah, but I mean, it's like it didn't like elevate the books all that much. It just condensed and dramatized them. But my answer is, and we'll see if I can hold true on this. I feel like I've firmly planted my flag on the I'm done with it side, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I was pretty confident that once what was it, Endgame happened, that would be it. I would have enough. And then I did watch a few of the films after Endgame, a few of the TV shows, and some of them I liked, but for the most part, it's just so much to keep up with, or it was so much to keep up with. We'll see if we still have to. And I just don't find it appealing anymore. So I'm kind of thinking that I might be done with Guardians of the Galaxy 3 behind us. That was like sort of the last property that I really felt like I needed to, see to the end.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm kind of in a different camp here. Like, I agree that they're going through a rough patch, and I'm not super excited about what they're doing. But I mean, I'm not going to be there to see X-Men when they finally make that X-Men movie. Same with Fantastic Four. I want to see Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. So those movies will probably bring me back in. If they replace Jonathan Majors with someone really cool as the next big bad, because I always felt like Jonathan Majors just was a little lacking as somebody who, and maybe it was like a slow burn, but I never got to the point with Jonathan Majors where I was just like, this is Thanos' successor. You know what I mean?
This is the guy stepping into those shoes. Well, I didn't see the movie with him in it. I had seen some stuff before with him. My big thing is I felt like with Thanos, you had Josh Brolin, a man who had been in the industry for decades. And that often their big bads were very established actors. Jonathan Majors was still so young. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to have a long career ahead of him, it seems. But, well, that's a whole other discussion. But it does seem like he was a bit on the young side for taking on such a big, meaty role. I mean, it would probably given him a lot of experience really quickly, but still, it takes a while to level up to that, to those heights of being able to hold a scene and hold the frame as some of those more experienced actors can.
Did you hear the rumor about who's going to replace Hugh Jackman as Wolverine?
I did not. I'm surprised they're even talking about that, considering Wolverine's about to be in a new movie.
Freaking Crispin Glover.
Okay, so now, the troll is strong with this one. No. Crispin Glover would be that. Like, that would be a downgrade in so many ways. He doesn't even. It's not even like he fits the things about Wolverine that we want. The small stature and everything like that. Anyways, no. But yeah, I mean, the other series that is on thin ice with me and doesn't have much more runway is Star Wars.
Frozen. Oh, Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, Star Wars. It's like they're not really releasing things that pique my interest. I'm basically holding out for Andor season 2 and seeing if they can do something similar to that and keep me going. But I never thought I'd reach an age where a lightsaber doesn't excite me, like doesn't send tingles down my spine.
I think if they did like a hardcore, Knights of the Old Republic, they could probably get me in if it was done well.
I think that's almost what the Acolyte's supposed to be, the new one that came out. But
is it set in the distant past?
Supposedly it's 100 years in the past. I personally think they should have gone.
That's not. Long ago.
I know. I personally think they should be working in the thousands of years in the past, but I'm not the brain trust of Star Wars. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, man, I think we've had the conversation over and over again. But roast me in the comments if you want. But my favorite Star Wars post Disney acquisitions are The Last Jedi and Andor, and
the Christmas special, right?
And Solo was really fun. I will say that. I think Solo has been slept on. I think in a decade or two, everybody's going to remember Solo more than even the sequel trilogy.
I liked Rogue One. I was into Rogue One.
Rogue One is good. I would say Rogue One is solid. But if any, like, for some reason, because Andor, the character is now like I associate. It's like one of those things. It's like Andor and Rogue One. It's.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? It's like Andor eclipsed what that was.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, don't keep don't keep your answers a secret. Let us know in the comments what narrative journey or franchise you are glad to be done with and why. And while you're at it, like and subscribe. Danny says for every subscriber we get, Joel will have to visit a different aviary and attempt to convince them to let him flambe their rarest bird.
Yeah, that's accurate. And honestly, I had a little bet with myself whether you were going to pronounce flambe correctly.
Well, I can pronounce it, but I can't do it. So
I was expecting flambe.
flambe.
I almost wrote it phonetically just to hook you up.
Thank you. I do appreciate the phonetic spellings when you can, but I feel like flambe is like one of those things like culturally has seeped into my mind. It's like I know that's a thing. So
of all things,
yeah.
flambe is what seeped into your mind.
Flambe.
How much exposure to flambe do you have?
It feels like something a chef in a TV show would have said they're doing, and I would have picked up on that.
Yeah, I'm over here flambeing the turnips. Pass the knife.
100%. Like I'm thinking the chef in The Little Mermaid. I think he was flambeing something. It was
Probably
Sebastian.
something that used to be Ariel's friend. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I could watch that movie again. Now talk about a Disney movie I do like. Anyways, folks. So
maybe too much.
Yes. I see it within you. It starts with a subtle urge. You tried to ignore it, but the call, it intensifies. Do not look away, kid. This is your moment. It is time to set your sights on new adventures in X, Seekers of Fortune. A quintessential two-player strategy card game filled to the brim with mystical challenges and unpredictable twists. As fortune seekers, race to claim 5 adventures by assembling the necessary leads to fulfill your quests. But who said it would be that simple? Throughout your quest, you and your rival will unearth ancient sites, perform staggering feats, and discover powerful relics for use in noble or ruthless ways. As you gather more experience, you will discover crafty combinations that will save your hide or sabotage the competition, leaving you with the prize. Remember, the line between a legendary explorer and a mere footnote in history is drawn by knowing when to press forwards or when it is time for cunning manipulations. It is time to answer the call. X marks the spot. Set forth and seek your fortune.
So Danny and I had the pleasure in some ways the pleasure and displeasure of 1 week ago. It's actually 8 days ago now, launching our first Kickstarter, the Kickstarter for X Seekers of Fortune, and it has been quite the ride. So we just thought we'd catch you up on what it was like being us through that time period right before the launch. We're going to kind of break it down as like, the same way you would break down a movie, where it's going to be the pre-production or like the pre-launch, the day of launch. That's kind of like the production. And then what we did the following days and what we're still doing and looking at doing in the coming weeks to keep the Kickstarter going.
I would just like to add here, Joel, like we thought that we would do a Kickstarter sort of postmortem, and we probably still will.
Yes.
And kind of had planned not to talk about Kickstarter before it had ended. But in talking to some of the people in the community, they suggested that there's just not enough views from, inside the minds of people in the middle of a Kickstarter, and encouraged us to kind of share what we're experiencing as a record of what others might expect when they're in the throes of chaos that is Kickstarter.
Yeah, think of this as like the testimonial you would cut to during a later scene or something like that. I say as somebody who doesn't watch reality TV show, but we're in the throes of it. A lot of people will talk about what they learned after the fact. We're going to tell you what we're thinking about and where our headspace is during it. So let's see if we can find something out here. We totally understand if we come across as crazy people who are just trying to, flip every switch and dial every knob just in, because that's kind of how it feels right now. But why don't we go back? Danny, are you okay with your hands?
I didn't think you could see me.
I have just out of the corner of my eye.
Okay.
So, Danny, why don't we go ahead? Like I said, let's like rewind, because we had a huge event that happened, and by the time you're seeing this episode, you will have seen us talking about Comic Palooza, and that was a huge, like 1 week away from the Kickstarter, or roughly a week away from the Kickstarter. We were doing this huge event that to drum up support, drum up interest, and just get more people familiar with the game. But I mean, in a lot of ways, that event was like, was its own beast, and then we had to jump off of that and jump right into like ratcheting up, getting graphics, copy, plans, everything like that down for Kickstarter. So what do you remember we still had left to do to get the Kickstarter ready for launch when we were like the Monday after Comic Palooza?
The Monday after Comic Palooza, like 6 days out.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
I think we had pretty much everything done besides having started the Kickstarter page. I'm joking. We had some of the Kickstarter page, but like effectively we made the entire Kickstarter page. It was like, it definitely felt like doing your homework the night before.
Oh yeah.
The massive week, year-end project to determine whether you advance to the next grade. And you're like, oh, I got this. I've only been given 3 months to do it, but sure, we'll get it done in 6 days.
Oh yeah, that definitely was how it felt. Like, we had gotten, like, LD, of course, was one of the main people working on the graphics for the Kickstarter.
The only
designer of the game. Yeah, okay, yes, the only person. You're right. What am I trying to do? Steal some valor here? No, we were in charge of the copy. We were in charge of like the layout and getting all the information down. But he had to make the graphics come to life. So
big.
Yeah, he had made some GIFs. He had made some titles and things like that. But there was still so much to massage out. And yeah, it was just like every day getting new stuff from him, which was exciting, but also noting, because we should say, I think it's okay to say that LD is very much involved with Comic Palooza. So we sort of knew that he wasn't going to be super available to work on the Kickstarter page and all these graphics until after Comic Palooza. So we kind of knew that we were going to have to do this cram session, what they usually call crunch in other parts of the game industry. We were going to have to do a big crunch session to get the graphics ready for the Kickstarter page.
Yeah, that last weekend beforehand definitely felt like a hackathon, right? Like, it was a lot of, I'll work on this while you work on that, while you grab that, and then I'll throw that over to you so you can do this, and then while you're doing that, I'll go check on this, and it just felt like we were all just, 2 days, that weekend before we launched Kickstarter, it was just nonstop trying to get everything ready. And, as we've talked about on the show many times, when we approach different problems, we look at it through the lens of minimum viable product. And this is no exception. As we were getting up to that launch date, we realized, hey, we have a long list of things that are what we would like to see on the Kickstarter page, but we need to figure out what are the nice to haves and what is actually part of minimum viable product to launch this campaign.
100%, because I think I got pretty past the idea of like having any of the nice to haves pretty early, because not like looking back at it, I can't think of anything that's on our page that's superfluous or extra. There are things that are made into graphics that could have just been like a list, but either way we would have had to have the information there. But it's better for it to look like to be in theme, to look like graphics. We have like our shipping and handling list. It looks like a ledger from a passport. Our like pathway, what was it, the path forward after Kickstarter, like the time frames of when to expect it to go to manufacturing and when it will go, will be shipped to America, when it will be shipped to the customer. Looks like a map with a dotted line. And so those things could have been like, they didn't have to be made into graphics, but LD was, knew that having a page that was just top to bottom on theme would definitely draw the eye. Oh, which reminds me, drawing the eye, we found out like probably about that week before, the week leading into the Kickstarter, that we had been awarded with a special badge.
Yeah, we
But-
got the designation projects we love from Kickstarter, which I found out in the most ridiculous way. We had a meeting with somebody who had been helping us with the Kickstarter, actually, Ori Kagan, who did the amazing trailer for X Seekers of Fortune, which will no doubt air at some point during this podcast. You'll have a chance to see it.
Yes.
If you are ever in the need of a high quality trailer for your game, whether it's an indie game or a AAA game, Ori Kagan is the person to call. You're not going to go wrong. Anyway, talking to Ori said, it would be nice if you got the projects we love. That helps. Have you got that? And I was like, no, I don't know. We'll see what happens after launch. And then I sent the link to the Kickstarter page so that Ori could do like a once over and just give us any notes that he may have. And he's like, oh, I see you have the projects we love. That's nice. And I'm like, oh, I guess we have it. Like, I did not know. I would not know. Probably would not have realized till we got that email after launch. But then that was a nice little pick me up as we were kind of getting ready to round third base and come in home to see like, okay, cool. There's at least some positive signs out there that this campaign page looks good.
Yeah, no, I think like it surprised both of us because we assumed that it would be something given to us after launch. We didn't realize that we'd be earmarked beforehand. So that's something, I guess, a little piece for you all to look out for is like, I guess Kickstarter, the people of Kickstarter are out there checking on what's being built and what's coming along. And they're looking to give you that designation. And maybe it was the graphics, maybe it was some of the communication that we had with some people at Kickstarter beforehand, because we had actually demoed the game for a person at Kickstarter. And so maybe they were just looking out for it. But I don't know exactly how we got the designation, but it is something that your page will get possibly before you even launch. So be on the lookout for that. It's a little badge just under your main graphic, like where the trailer goes.
Yeah, from the discussions that I had with our contact at Kickstarter, it's a separate team. And I think that there is probably some form of firewall where, the outreach people don't try to influence the people inside. Just to make sure that everything is on the up and up.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. No. I would have expected it to be like, you gotta have that separation of like, you can't have somebody out there playing favorites either. So honestly, I'm going to give it to I'm going to give this win to LD. I'm pretty sure.
Let's give the W to LD.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure somebody just stopped by to check to make sure we didn't have like naughty words and pornography or something like that on the page. Just that sort of checkup to make sure it wasn't anything that was violating TOS. And they probably were like, "Oh, this looks pretty cool," and sent it to the person who got to decide on that.
Yeah, I mean, we can go with that. I think that's a reasonable. Probably just a porno check, and we passed, and they're like, "Oh, actually, we love this." Maybe we would have loved it more if there was some porno on it, but
just a little bit at work, right, Danny?
Tasteful. They don't even call it porno; they call it erotica at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's in book form. It's stimulating your imagination.
That's what I would like to see as like the follow up to Botany on the Floor is like something about like Victorian age erotica.
Draw me like your French girls. Come on, that would be such Dusty. Come on, wouldn't that be an amazing tagline? I don't just artists trying to convince the most beautiful women to pose for them in order to give them the best chance of being featured in a museum, or you're trying to go and find the most unique things to take. It doesn't have to just be women. It could be the chateaus of La Flore. It could be the plants of botany.
The beautiful horses of whatever field is next to the place you are.
Yes, exactly. So, you know what? Let's stop giving Dusty all these.
Yeah,
great
I feel
ideas
bad for Dusty.
online.
He tunes into this episode just unsuspecting, like, oh, let's just check in. And all of a sudden he's inundated with advice about an erotica game that he probably should not make. But if you do, backer number one.
Yes. And I'll send you my full name for the special thanks section.
Assuming that it is antiquated erotica of the Victorian age or something like that. I don't want any of that modern contemporary erotica.
It's either like, a full tasteful nude or a woman like hiking up just her skirt so you can see her ankle.
Do they wear skirts then? Or was it like more of like a, I don't know. Anyway, we're getting off the deep end. This is supposed to be a shorter episode.
Yeah, folks, we're trying our best to bring these down to an hour. So let's see what we can do, especially when it's just the two of us, Danny and I. So to get back on topic, so it was kind of a mad dash. We had done okay. I would say this: if you're going into Kickstarter, just know, like, if you look at all the other pages, they're all very similarly laid out. So you can find the skeleton of your page amongst other pages, especially the successful ones. So you're going to know what sections to hit. So in a Word document, you can easily lay it out like, here's the headline, bullet, and here are the things that we need to say. And even we kind of filled that out, Danny and I, and passed that along to LD at his request. And he was able then to take that and elaborate it into the graphics, into the copy. He kind of refined the copy himself on some of those things. So it just like having, as long as you know your map, that's always the thing. As long as you know your map, as long as you have your skeleton, putting everything on it becomes a lot easier, and it makes it so much easier to focus in on what needs to be done because you have a list of what needs to be done. Something isn't working, move to the next thing.
Absolutely. I think there's a couple of good pieces of advice here. One, just like you said, Joel, look at a bunch of Kickstarters, look for what commonalities are between them. Because odds are, if it's in multiple Kickstarters, it's probably important and it's probably there because it's worked. Now, look, it's possible that people just start doing something because they've seen it and it gets repeated and it's not effective. But generally speaking, if you see it in 5 or 6 different Kickstarters, it's probably a good idea to include it in yours. And the other piece of advice I would give to people who are early in their journey towards Kickstarter, but are wondering like, okay, I need to figure out how to do this. I want to do it well. Try to befriend people who are on the same journey. Now, you may want to talk to people who are on the other side of Kickstarter, but a lot of times if they're on the other side of Kickstarter, depending on how you meet them, they may be harder to get a hold of, right? In general, the community is very, very open and giving. Like if people reached out to us, we definitely talk to them. But the reality is like everyone's really, really busy, especially post Kickstarter. But the people who I think are going to be most interested in helping you are the people who are gearing up their own Kickstarter. And the reason why I say that is you want to find someone who's just a little ahead of you on the road and then offer them some amount of support in helping them get their Kickstarter. Because when they're trying to get their Kickstarter off the ground, anyone who's willing to help them, anyone who's willing to put the word out is going to mean a lot to them. And then by the time they get over the hump, you've developed that relationship and now they can report back to you from the other side. They probably know other people on the journey and that's going to open that whole network up for you. So if you see somebody who's trying to launch their own Kickstarter, and especially if it's like a game that you believe in, or you really like the way that they're approaching the market or talking about their game and you think they're going to do a good job and you want to follow in their footsteps, try to just lend some kind of hand. It could be as simple as just like helping, repost videos and commenting and stuff. Just strike up that relationship. You'll be surprised how many people are willing to help you. And the earlier you can get involved in their journey, the more likely they are to be able to, be willing to just give you as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, Danny, that is a really great point. And, we have found that the community is out there ready to help each other. So as long as you're willing to participate in this sort of like help based, bond building / economy, whatever you want to call it, it's sort of like you repost my video, I shout you out, you help me here, I help you there, and the advice just comes free flowing from people. The question is, are you going to listen to it? That's a topic for probably another podcast, but the advice is out there and people love to share and teach and help others from behind them. And if they're doing that, that means they're the right people to be around. So listen to them. Now, you did bring up a good point. The last thing I wanted to ask or wanted to bring up was the week out. Now, this is even more so for you. And I think you learned a few things about specifically TikTok here, but a week out, what are we doing social media wise? What are we doing to sort of like get the word out? I kind of know what I was doing, but you were probably doing more effective things.
Yeah, so one of the big things that we struggled with was the performance of our meta ads. Going into Kickstarter, we felt like meta ads were going to be core to our strategy. And as it turned out, we never really got traction with them. And we solicited a lot of different help with them. And we've gotten a little better over time, but frankly, we just never saw the return that we felt like we needed to see to get the kind of results that we wanted. And so we were kind of looking for other avenues, and we kind of, or I should say, I kind of went back to basics and was like, hey, I've spent the last year building a TikTok presence. I'm going to focus on TikTok for the last week. We started exploring with Promote. I used Promote a little bit early on and did not like what I was seeing. We would get the views they said we would get, but when you would look at your engagement, you look at your likes, your favorites, your comments, like nothing. And to me, that's like, okay, cool. You threw it in front of people, but they could care less.
Yes.
And maybe that's the content, or maybe it's the audience that it's putting in front. But in either way, this is not something that works for me. So it kind of soured me on Promote. But then as we were getting closer and I knew I needed to push things out and really try to get, I was like, okay, I'm going to take another crack at promoting this other video, which has been doing reasonably well, but is kind of on the low end on views, but the ratio of engagement to views was really strong. And then as soon as I started putting money on that, it wasn't just that the views went up, the likes went up, the favorites went up. And we really felt like we were getting a lot of traction out of that. And so in the last home stretch, that video, as well as the trailer for the game, as well as another kind of reposting of that video with some Kickstarter related information on it, we poured a little bit of money into using Promote in the home stretch just to get some more eyeballs on it. And I don't have the clear attribution lines where I can tell you like, hey, this is how much this produced. I can just say that it felt like we probably got a handful of sales there based on the fact that it was getting favorited, because on TikTok, when you favorite something, it's because you want to go back to it. And so it implied to me that people saw this game. They're like, okay, I want to remember this. I want it to be on my radar because at one point I would like to see if I can buy this.
Yeah. No, I was really excited about that. The performance of that video, once you started showing it to me and I started tracking it as well, I was, like you said, that's a very important aspect to probably to any social media that I'm only now becoming aware of, but the views to like ratio, or how many people have seen it and how many people like it. If a lot of people have seen it and nobody likes it, then what was it? If a lot of people have seen it and there's more, supposedly, like, what is it called? Ratioing, when there's more comments than likes, that's an indication that people didn't just dislike it. They disliked it enough to have to say something about it. And that's being ratioed. You identified a really good video, and this was a how to play video that was actually made by Will, the editor of this podcast, his wife, and the voiceover was done by your brother, who's a bit of a trained actor. And they put that video together almost on their own, and it just glides you through how to play very easily. I've had many people tell me, wow, I can't believe your game is so digestible that you could teach it in 3 minutes. And I was like, well, they figured out how to teach it in 3 minutes. And once you identify that video was such a good performer, and like people found it charming and engaging, like, yeah, it was just like, let's put it in front of more people's eyes. So just pay attention to what is getting good views to like ratio, and that might be the video that you should, if you're going to promote videos on TikTok, if you're going to promote videos on Meta or any other service, that's like an indicator. If people are reacting well to it and liking it, that means that's probably the one you want to put in front of more people's eyeballs. And it's almost like one of those things, like, if we could have known that, 6 weeks out, that might have changed our strategy. But we were looking to, like you said, Meta wasn't working for us. We don't know if we didn't crack the code on Meta ads. We don't know if this is a down year. A lot of people talk about the economy is not strong. I personally
the campaign is another big one that gets called out, because we are in a presidential campaign year. So the cost of ads and the cost of attention, because I mean, that's really what it is, right? Like, you're paying for attention. And Meta really seems to be pushing towards a pay-to-play model, both on Instagram and Facebook.
Yes, exactly. That was something that our social media manager brought up to us, and was like, she's actually very disheartened by Meta's move to that. And I do, and yes, I 100% agree. I think the presidential election, it just changes everybody's priorities, and it changes the price of attention, because there's one huge thing that everybody is being told to pay attention to, and it makes it crowds out a lot of space for smaller stuff. So if there's a lesson to be learned there, maybe if you're starting to build your game, like project out a year or to a year and a half in advance. Are you in a presidential election? Are you in a midterm election? Maybe make some adjustments.
Particularly if it's your first game, right? Because like
Yes.
one of the big things is, and they'll tell you this, your first game is unlikely to have a big launch. Look, there's exceptions. Botany was huge right out of the gate, right?
Yeah.
But oftentimes people have, you know, the $10,000 campaign, then the $30,000 campaign, then the $100,000 campaign, and so part of that is, and probably the primary reason why is because as a completely unknown person, you're bootstrapping a community and a following from nothing.
Yes.
And to the extent that we were successful, which we'll get to answering that question in a little bit, it's in large part because we spent over a year in advance trying to build a community so that when we got there, we had some people that were waiting for us as opposed to getting there and just being like, so anyone around, anyone care, anyone. A lot of people make that mistake. A lot of people will jump in and have done absolutely no work
Yes.
building a community and energy around the game they're trying to launch or whatever creative endeavor they're trying to launch.
100%. I mean, that's probably a good reason for us to move into the actual launch of the campaign because of the community that we built. To tell this a little bit out of order, the narrative is we, in 14 hours, funded our game at $10,000, which is, not the biggest campaign in the world, but we did manage to hit our day one funding, which was a huge goal for us. But waking up that day, pressing the launch on Kickstarter button, let's face it, like you brought it up. It's like, yeah, neither of us truly in our logical minds expected us to be out of the gate successful. Like, oh, we funded in 30 minutes. Oh, we're still going up. Number goes up, by the end of the day, we're in the tens of thousands, many times over our goal. We didn't expect that logically, but we both probably have to admit that in the back of our mind somewhere, there was a little, just a hopeful.
Like hope. Yeah,
hope.
Exactly.
You have
I mean,
hope.
anyone who
Yes.
launches on Kickstarter and has seen big Kickstarter campaigns and has put in a ton of work,
Yes.
at least a little part of their brain is like, wouldn't this be so cool? I mean,
Yeah.
like, what if it happens? What if it happens? And then those first few seconds, things start rolling in, and then your expectations start to adjust to what the reality of the situation is.
Yeah. And if you've done the work that we did, because we're no slouches, maybe we didn't crack the code, but we still built a community. There were people ready to donate right when we pressed the button. We were.
Yeah. Shout out to John at Terrible Games, backer number 1.
Yes, John, we got to get you back on the show, my friend. Want to hear more about like what you're working on over there at Terrible Games and everything like about that. But now that we're both Kickstarter buddies, we've gone through this process together. I'm sure we'd also be able to talk about some battle scars too. But so you do see a big bump at the beginning. I think we hit $2,500 pretty within the first few minutes, something like that. It launched up pretty quickly, but we did notice shortly after that it tapering out quite a bit. It wasn't like it didn't feel like things were just rolling in consistently. And so I'm trying to figure out exactly how to phrase this, but so we realized that, our goal is to be funded by the end of the day, and we are just a fraction of the way there. Maybe I think we were 20% of the way there within the first half hour, but we were realizing that it was slowing down. And we didn't expect to do this. I don't think either of us woke up. We weren't talking about the day before. We knew we were going to go live, but I don't think we knew how live and how long we were going to be live. Danny, to break down like how long we were on trying to raise awareness.
So we did this in 2 parts, but we effectively ended up doing something like 6 hours in the morning and 5 hours in the evening or something. It ended up being somewhere like 11 or 12 hours of live in a single day. And again, it wasn't our intention, but we ended up sort of throwing up the Kickstarter on there and just talking about the Kickstarter on live for that entire duration, trying to spread the word because we really, really needed to get to the point where we felt like we're going to fund day one. Any research you do ahead of time says day one funding is key to being picked up by the Kickstarter algorithm, and getting more eyeballs. If you get funded day one, you're going to have a better campaign, because they're going to just be more attention on you. So for us, it was like, this is the mission. You have to succeed. How are we going to make this happen? And the only way to do that is to get out there and sell the game. And the only place to sell the game from your house is on live, whether it be on Twitch or TikTok or Instagram. And TikTok is where we live, basically, as a brand. That's where most people know to find us. So we just turned that thing on and we just went. And that number slowly ticked up over the course of the day. And we got incrementally closer, such that as we were going along, Joel and I were looking and saying, we're on track. We could do this. We can't let our foot off the pedal.
No.
But this is possible. We might actually pull this off.
Yes. I remember when we took our break, we were like over 5K when we took our midday break. And I was kind of thinking it could happen. But I wasn't expecting to go back into the live show because I ate a lunch that kind of like, got my blood sugar all wacky. And I think I was zoinked out there right before we went back in. But I didn't think I had it in me to go back in and do live again. But somehow when the camera turns on, and this is let's unpack this lesson. But basically, when I got back into the live with you and started talking about the game, all of a sudden I clicked back into being this version of myself that is on camera. And so the lesson that you might be able to take from this is we feel like we wouldn't have been able to accomplish that level of engagement and that for that long, that endurance, if we hadn't been doing this podcast and doing small lives leading up. We've done this podcast for over a year now, or coming up to a year, basically. The Comic Palooza was sort of like the year marker for us. And if we hadn't done we wouldn't have been as savvy, as trained. We wouldn't know what we need to talk about. And we think we would have faltered. So the reason for doing a podcast like this isn't just to get eyeballs on your podcast. That's nice. But sometimes it's about learning how to speak directly to a camera, how to speak to an audience, and how to be, I guess you would say, media savvy. You just don't want your first time ever being on camera to be in an important time. This is a very low stakes situation for Danny and I, or this is, in comparison to, the day of Kickstarter. So we got a lot of practice in beforehand. And I would highly recommend that if you want to engage with your audience in a face-to-face manner or a forward-facing manner, get your practice in something like this, a podcast format or low priority lives that you don't expect anybody to show up for. Basically.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And sorry, we have a podcast appearance actually this evening that I'm just confirming that we're both doing. No, 100%. The podcast was something that trained us for this prize fight, as it were. And I think we both were just determined that we were going to fund day one and we were going to do anything that we could within our means to do so that was legal and ethical. And so it paid off. And look, again, it's really easy to look at the live and say that's what did it. But the reality is, outside of the live, everyone who had been working with us on this journey, all the Mega Moth team, all of the community members of X Seekers of Fortune, they were all pushing in their own way. And if any single one of those people had done a little less than they did, I don't think we would have funded. No. So
I agree with you.
Yes, we went on live and we created a focal point and created a lot of energy. But the reality is every single person that worked on that campaign, shared the campaign, told anyone about it, they made it happen just as much as we did. It was a team effort, and it was extremely humbling to be the beneficiary of so much love and support.
100%. We had longtime supporters, community members in the live with us, like drumming up support, chatting with us, like contributing to the chat, which kept us going because then we had somebody to talk to. And I'm sure, Danny, how many times that day did you play Ori's trailer?
Oh, I mean, like once every 5-10 minutes. Like, I mean, first of all, again, if I haven't said enough on this podcast that if you're working on a Kickstarter campaign and you need a trailer for your game and you want it to be good and you want it to be successful, Ori Kagan.
Yeah.
Go to the website, Kagan Productions. That may not actually be the website, but you can Google it. You've got fingers. You've got Google. Ori Kagan.
For now.
You will not be disappointed. It will sell your game better than you know how to.
Yeah. Trust us. We see such a change in people's perspective on our game from before and after. In fact, there was this wonderful video done by TCG News. Shout out to TCG News. He did like a roundup of 4 or 5 Kickstarters, watching their videos live and reacting to them. And you could tell, like, X Seekers of Fortune, that Ori Keegan trailer changed his temperature. He was so excited and so hyped about the game after watching that trailer. He gave us a lot of positive feedback because our trailer, unlike some of the other trailers, and I don't want to downgrade them or to be too dismissive of them, but they had their little issues. They didn't tell him the whole story, and that's what Ori focuses in on, is the storytelling of your game, from like setting to the themes to the mechanics. And he makes sure that 1 minute, 90 seconds, however long it is conveying all of those things. So yeah, we can't speak enough to it, but what we can speak to is we did a 12-hour live stream. We put our hearts and souls into it. We got to $10,000, and now we're on the other side of that. We're a few days, 8 days, right? 7 or 8 days after that. Yeah. And we've raised another 3,500 or so, maybe a little bit less than that. So it might be time to talk about like what you should expect and where we're at right now, which is like this is what we're in the middle of, which is the Kickstarter lull. Danny, what's your read on the Kickstarter lull?
Well, this is what you hear when you're researching and studying up for Kickstarter. You're going to have a big day one, and then it's going to be a while before anyone pays attention to your campaign again, because people want to be there at the beginning, and then people will be there at the end because they're afraid they're going to miss out. They know this is their last possible chance. And in between, it's incremental growth, but it's slow going. And I mean, honestly, that's exactly what we've experienced. Joel, you put it out there. We raised over $10,000 on day one, and we've raised in the subsequent week about $3,300. It goes up and down a little bit, but we raised about $3,300 additional dollars, which is great. And we love that. And, we're going to keep on trucking. But it does indicate that, there is going to be a slowdown of attention and of motivation to back your game. So what do you do about it? And our approach, which again, we were hesitant to have this conversation now because we wanted to bring you a conversation when Kickstarter was completely in the rearview mirror, and we could tell you, this is what we did. This is how it works. This is whether we would do it again or not. This is what we might do differently. We can't do that. We don't know whether what we're doing right now is going to work, whether it's wise, whether what we're telling you we're doing is terrible advice. But because people have encouraged us to share our experience mid-race for the benefit of other people who may want to be able to look at this podcast and say, okay, so this is what the mindset is like in the middle of Kickstarter, we felt it was important to report this. The lull, our approach to the lull is basically, okay, sales are down. So what do you do when sales are down? You sell. So we are trying to mobilize our sales force. We're trying to figure out, how do we get people out there talking about the game? How do you hustle up business, right? Because at the end of the day, you're launching a business. I mean, I guess not everyone is. Some people are really, truly just trying to put a game out into the world and say, this is it. I might do another Kickstarter, but for me, it's really about, I don't care what size print run I'm doing. This is just about getting this game into the world, and then I'm okay with whatever it may be. But for a lot of us out there, we're indie publishers. We're trying to bootstrap the next game. We're trying to get the next art commission. We're trying to keep this business running and going. And so when you're running a business, you have to sell your products. So why would you wait until an after Kickstarter to start selling? That doesn't make any sense. So, we took a deep breath the day after. We started to collect ourselves. And from that point forward, it's been, okay, how do we get our sales program together? Can this sales program be the beginning of what carries us after Kickstarter? Can this be what we use to start bringing the game to market in other ways? And so we haven't left any stone unturned. I mean, there are a lot of stones, so we haven't reached all of them, but we're looking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're definitely looking. If y'all see some stones, to turn them over and tell us what you find underneath for sure. Now, I will say it makes a huge difference when you're going out to other people and say it's a night and day situation. Before, we were selling the idea that eventually you could buy our game. Now we're actually saying you can buy our game. It's a pre-order. Granted, it's a pre-order. I can't just hand you the copy of the game right when you buy it. I can't just put it into a box and ship it immediately. We still have to go through manufacturing and logistics and everything like that. But it is so much different to walk into a store. Like, I actually went around, and it wasn't the most fruitful activity, but I did go around to all the gaming and comic stores here in Austin, and just to make my impression on them, to show them the box of the game and to tell them, hey, this is a fully funded game, and you could get back it on retail tiers. And I got emails, definitely emails of people to follow up with, but it does change your confidence and your approach to talking about your game once you're on Kickstarter, because you're no longer just selling the idea that someday this game will be available. You're selling the idea of you can buy it now.
Yeah. 100%. And once you're fully funded, this is the other importance of getting fully funded on day one, because from that day forward, hopefully, unless something catastrophic happens with like mass cancellation or something, you have a game that's going to print. So now it's no longer a decision of, do I want to offer to buy a game that may not get made, or do I just want to pre-order a game that will be made? It's interesting how that psychology works, because effectively, since Kickstarter doesn't take your money, since you don't get penalized in any way, there's not a whole lot of difference between backing a game that hasn't been fully funded yet and one that does. If it doesn't fund, nothing's going to happen. You're not going to lose any money. It's not even $1 getting taken out of your account. Mm-hmm. Whereas when that game is fully funded, though, then it feels a lot more like I'm buying something. I'm going to get this. And I think for whatever reason, that psychology is just so much more compelling for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Like, a lot of people like a sure thing. Let's face it. Like, that's a special kind of person to be a early adopter, and even early, and before Kickstarter, before your product is even being made, that's an early adopter. I remember being like tracking a few video games that were being made throughout high school and college, or movies. I used to be like that with movies, like, interested in the movie when it was still at like the pre-production phase. But it takes a lot, to be interested in things that haven't even come to fruition yet. So, thank you for everybody who did back this and making it a reality that is going to be coming to your doorstep, or your LGS, wherever it's coming. But we still are trying to do some things to get some more eyes on our project. So we should probably talk about that. Now, first of all, you mentioned it just right now, but we're looking at going live or doing other people's shows right now. Do we have much of a slate set up? Or are we still looking for, like turning over stones in that situation?
So we are doing the Rogue Contenders tonight. And that's with Jay Crane, Bryant, and Ryotin. Jay Crane has been a pillar of our community for, the majority of the time that we've had a community. We have an invitation to go on Murder Buffet. I think we may do that, although I don't know that they're going to pick up their filming schedule until after Kickstarter. Okay. And there are a couple other possible avenues for getting on different shows, but really, to your point, guesting on other people's lives, reaching new audiences. I mean, that's what this is all about. How do you find people who haven't heard about your game and have a conversation with them about it that is compelling?
Yes. Yeah, because now it is very much like, it's easy to be insular within your own community that you've built, because these are the people you already know and you want to engage them and make them excited, and they give you positive reinforcement. But at the end of the day, you have to be putting your face, you have to be putting your game in front of new people, and these other shows, and this is the ecosystem we live in today. I believe it was Andy Warhol who said, in the next 50 years, or something like that, in the next 50 years, everybody will have their own television show, and hanging out with your friends will basically be you going and guesting on their television show. Like, everybody's got the Tonight Show, and let's face it, what did we do? We played right into his hand. He was correct 100%. But it is a great way of exposing yourself to different audiences. This is another reason why you should be on TikTok, on Instagram, friending, following other creators, other people in whatever space you're in. I'm assuming board games and tabletop games, because you're here listening to us. But you go out there, you find these folks, you like their content, engage with them, comment. All of a sudden, you'd be surprised. It's a small world. These are small communities. At the end of the day, you will probably become one of their favorite people pretty quickly. And if you build up, like I said, use your own podcast or what have you to build up your own savvy, then all of a sudden you will, you can start communicating with them, and your conversations could be other people's TV shows, if you will.
Yeah, 100%. A couple other things that I would recommend doing. So, find places to network. We talked about that. Go on live, be seen, right? Reach out to your real life network, people that you've known for years and years who you think would be interested in this, or have people in their lives that are interested, and just be honest with them. Say, hey, I have a passion project I've been working on for a long time. I know that, not everyone may be interested in this or support this, but if you think people in your life that may appreciate this and may see value in it, would you please do me the favor of sharing it with them? It would mean everything to me. And more people than not are going to be receptive to that, because they want you to succeed, right? Very few people are going to say, oh, no, thank you. I wouldn't think to share that with people. I don't want to help you. Look for other ways to get things out, whether it be, we're trying a bunch of funky stuff. I don't know will work. We're planning to send out a press release here in the next 24 hours. I don't know if that's a good idea. But we'll certainly report in our postmortem whether or not the press release had an impact.
Yeah. And that's also to be announcing a new tier that we're opening up to hopefully get people who want to support the game in a bigger way, to give them an excuse, I guess, if you will, and give them good value for putting down quite a bit more money, which I'll lay it out. It's going to be a $5,000 tier that will get your likeness amongst all the other benefits of getting multiple copies of the game, multiple playmats, everything, everything you could hope for before that. But it will also get you your likeness on a card art. We'll commission an art with your likeness that's going to be on a playable card in the game. So that's just to see if there's the people out there, if there are people who are very generous. And this is a card that everybody gets. So if they get to stroke their own, don't want to say it like that, but they get to be immortalized in the game and give everybody a new card. It just so happens to feature a likeness of them. And I think that there's definitely some people out there who can afford it, and that would be something special to them.
We had received some feedback that people were surprised that we didn't have tiers that were pricier. I think a lot of people wanted to put more money into the game than we made it easy to do. And so as a response to that, we are creating a tier, and we'll probably roll out maybe another one or two tiers that are kind of in between this and our current highest tier. But ultimately, with this tier, which is called Share the Riches, we wanted to do something that created something special for the backer who's willing to pledge that much money to our campaign, but also something that was special for everyone who had already backed us, right? Like, we wanted to give that person the opportunity to give everyone a gift. We wanted it to feel like the person who walks into Digger's Dugout, which is the bar in our world, and says, a round for the house,
Yeah.
Everyone, next run's on me kind of thing. And so we'll see if that's something that that works. If it doesn't, I mean, it's just a tier that, doesn't get subscribed to. So that's not a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We will, in the sake of keeping the show on the shorter side, I think we should just answer one final question before we start going into the finals of the show.
Sure.
And that is, what is the next goal, Danny? I guess from your perspective, what's your next goal?
I guess the face tattoo.
I feel like face tattoos, I might as well call them Pringles, because once I start, I'm probably not going to be able to stop. You can't just have like one. Like one face tattoo is like eerie. Multiple face tattoos say, "Oh, I just don't give a flying flip." And I'd rather be the guy who doesn't give a flying flip than the guy who has like a dark secret. Well, I don't know about it. It's just like the dark secrets that come with a face tattoo are not the type of dark secrets you want to be advertising. The teardrop and other things that you could get on your face that I've seen before.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I mean, the serious answer to that question is
yes.
The next goal needs to be the next backer, right? You have to have, people always ask, like, how do you go and do something that takes a lot of steps and is really complicated and a long journey? How do you get to this destination? And the answer is very simple. It's just one step at a time, right? And so if you focus too much on the macro number, no, I'm not saying it's not important to have a big goal in your mind, right? I would say, like, we really would like to hit 30,000 by the end of this campaign, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you don't hit 30,000 from where you are. That's not the next step. Mm-hmm. So focus on putting one foot in front of the other, get that next step, find that next backer, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. And the other cool thing is, the more people who back the game, the more backers you have, the exponentially the network of people who are invested in the game, who believe in the game, who can talk about the game grows, and those additional backers hopefully become easier after you reach a certain point of saturation.
Yeah, I mean, the social networks of each person that you back, comes to your game and backs it, especially with the way that we're doing stretch goals. Hopefully, if everybody else is as excited about the new cards, the new artwork that we're offering as stretch goals, it means that everybody has incentive to go out and inform their own social network about the game, find the friends who they might want to play with. So hopefully that will light a fire under them to ignite them to do that. And yeah, each backer getting one person to back one at a time. It's like the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single footstep. It's every single step counts. Now for me, the next goal, well, I mean, there's a lot of next goals, but the next thing that I'm really like looking out ahead to is the next time we're going to be doing this. It's like one of those things, you don't want to think too hard about the next long trip that you're about to make when you're in the middle of one. But, the goal now for me is for us to build this community, go out there with the game in hand, printed, selling to people at stores, selling to people online, wherever we find them, getting them to embrace the game, to love the game, and then to build that community, so that way when we go either to Kickstarter again or whatever we think is the best way of releasing, but the next time we're releasing a brand new product, which we already have planned and we're already play testing, that product, it does even better. And there's already people who are excited and rabid for it and are just wanting to get their hands on it, because if we made a good game, and people are going to want it to expand, and people are going to want to see what we have next.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, Danny. Well, let's go ahead and call it there. Like we said, we'll get into a postmortem after the entire Kickstarter campaign is done, but we'll try to capture our thoughts here in the middle of it, so that way when you're in the middle of it, you can come and listen to us give you some so-so advice.
Yeah, and by all means, reach out to us on any of our social media platforms if you're in the middle of your own Kickstarter or gearing up for a Kickstarter, and whether you want advice from people who may not be qualified to give it, or just moral support from people who may not be qualified to give it, we are there for you.
100%. Yeah. So if this is, no matter what the date is, hopefully no matter what the date is, within reason. I mean, I guess 80 years from today, you might not be able to reach Danny or myself, but 5-10 years down the line, this might still be an issue that you're still wanting answers to, and we might still be available. We hopefully still be available to tell you what we learned. So Danny, with that, should we go into one of our favorite parts of the show?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a lightning round. You ready?
Yeah, no, my favorite times of the lightning round are when I'm the one who gets to be in the seat getting, shot with bolts of lightning.
Yes, absolutely. So the lightning round in question is 8 to rate, underrated or overrated lightning round. We're going to give Joel 8 things to rate, and his job is going to be tell us if each of these things are either under or overrated and why. Are you ready, Joel?
Yes, I am ready.
All right, number 1, unrequited love.
Unrequited love, it hurts in the moment, and it will leave you. It'll be echoing throughout your life with regrets. But sorry, give me one moment. But unrequited love has created some of the greatest songs, some of the greatest stories, some of the greatest films, everything you could think. A lot of it has been inspired by unrequited love. And it is heartbreaking, but you have to have some heartbreak in your life. So I'm going to say a lot of it is underrated. You need to have at least a little bit of unrequited love. And even if you don't in your own life, you've definitely benefited from other people having unrequited love in theirs.
All right, number 2, simping for fictional characters.
Let's face this, folks. We do it all the time. Society runs on simping for fictional characters. Now, you could take it too far. You can. Don't simp on Maine. But everybody have one of your favorites, that you're attracted to, both personality and physically in your heart. Because when you find your special person in real life, and you have to be able to still be open to finding somebody special in real life for this to work, you're going to see the qualities of your favorite character in them, and it's going to make it even more special. So maybe that's it. Simping, overrated. Crush, underrated.
Interesting. And just for clarity's sake, for those of us who may not know, what does it mean simping on Maine?
It means it means that you are posting on your main feed about your the thing that is making you, let's just say, erotically stimulated.
Like X Years of Fortune?
Maybe. I mean, if you're out there and you're sipping for, Akaya or Jericho or Ana Lucia, go ahead. Spread the love. Spread your love of the characters to your friends. But
all right, next question.
Yes.
Number 3. It's not really a question. It's a lightning round. Number 3, simping for non-fictional characters.
I think this falls into a very similar category. Having an unrequited love for somebody who existed that you never got to meet. Because I feel like for you to be simping, I mean, please don't simp in front of people unless that's a mutual kink that you share with somebody you're in a relationship with, but do not simp in front of people face to face. So this has to be an unrequited situation. There needs to be separation. Ultimately, I would just say simping is just in general a bad idea, or a word that has lost all meaning or lost its core meaning. So the by its truest nature, you should never simp for anything, but if you mean it by this is something that turns me on erotically, intellectually, and this is something that it's essentially a crush. If it's at crush levels, I'm all for it. But simping just happens to be a negative word with a negative connotation. So technically, all simping is overrated. But if it's just having a crush, underrated yet again.
All right, question number 4, edge cases.
Overrated. I think that people need to understand that you need to most of your life work on generalizations. If you don't work from a place of generalizations, you're not working from a place of statistical averages, which means you're not working from a place where you're actually going to be getting reliable outputs for your inputs. Edge cases are great for, stories. Edge cases are great for, oddities, anecdotes. But when it comes to you're sitting down and you're making decisions to best live your life, to best guide your company, to best provide for your family, you want to be looking at the statistical averages and basing your decisions on at least that as a starting point.
Okay. Question number 5. Sorry. Lightning round number 5. Edging cases.
Now we're talking about gooning here, it sounds like. I would say that I would say you're going to spend a lot of time for, in my opinion, maybe not the biggest reward. I don't take it from me. I'm maybe a simp when it comes to this sort of thing, but I just don't think edging is worth your all that valuable to your time.
I love how crazy your hair looks.
Oh,
you did like the perfect transition to like for that soundbite to look as freaking unhinged as possible. I love it. Thank you so much. All right, number 6, pencil cases.
completely underrated. I feel like this is something that everybody looks at and thinks, oh, only a nerd would have that. And you think back to your school days, and it's like this big rectangular plastic thing that's just completely unorganized, but they could be so elegant. I have a pencil case, and it has some pins in there. I'm naughty like that. It has some brushes in there, but it's like it can fit like 3 or 4 good quality pencils. I can zip it up, put it into my bag, and I know that they are protected back there. 100% underrated. Everybody should have a pencil case, and it should be in your bag of choice. Also, if you're not carrying a pen with you on a daily basis in your pocket or somewhere on your person, get your life together. That and a watch changed my life. So get a watch on your wrist and a pen in your pocket, young man or woman or non-binary. This is universal to humans.
All right, number 7, penicillin.
Let's face it, folks. We can't. I would say, well, this is a tough one because it was I would say it's very underrated in my perspective now, because I think a lot of people are hating on it and saying how it's going to be like less useful in the coming years, but it's still doing its job, and we don't know what the future and it holds for us. But when you need to be cured today, penicillin is going to take care of a lot of things that could be ailing you. So I'm going to say for the time being, it's underrated. I think people are a little too fascinated with where the road's going, and sometimes you just have to stick with what works.
All right, number 8, the last one for today's lightning round, male birth control.
Kind of two minds, but I will say, like, from the perspective of being a woman who is trying to rely on a male and you're having to trust him about taking his birth control, I would say it's overrated, because I'm a dude who's pretty responsible about taking vitamins and things like that in the morning, and even I would start having doubts about my consistency. If it was a pill I had to take every day for it to be effective, I would start getting a little worried. Now, if it was, the other methods, the surgical method of vasectomy, that's, as long as you're not a scumbag just lying to women, about having a vasectomy, I think that's very effective and very trustworthy. But if we're talking like a pill similar to female birth control that you have to take on a daily basis, I wouldn't trust anybody below the age of 30 to be honest about it. And at that point, those are probably the people you have to worry the least amount about, birth control in general. So that's my 2 cents. I'd say overrated. A lot of people think, why don't we have it? And it's like, well, I mean, probably because dudes will be dudes. Sometimes that means doing awesome tricks off the rooftop and landing, like doing awesome dives off a rooftop and landing into a swimming pool on video for everybody to see. And sometimes that means, YOLOing their morning routine in favor of being either hungover or just going out and grabbing tacos. And so unreliable. Male birth control, overrated. Everybody thinks it, so it would be great, but
I think I understand where you're coming from. I think I still disagree. I think we all should take responsibility for our reproductive health. And if you're afraid that you're going to go out there and, reproduce unintentionally, it's a peace of mind that you're doing your part to make sure that that's not happening. So for me, that really appeals to me. But I've already taken the much more permanent fix there with the snippy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it, Joel.
Yes.
That is the lightning round today. That is 8 to rate, underrated, overrated lightning round. And from here, where are we going, Joel?
Well, we're going to remind you really quick, and I'm going to keep it a little lighter than normal. I'll still take the microphone out of the stand. I'll still speak directly to you, but we're just going to run through this really quick. I'm just going to run through it like a laundry list. If you're listening to us on YouTube right now, pull out your phone, look at my face, look at me in the face. Now look down there. Like the like button. That's what we want to see you press. Press that like button, and that's going to help us, rise in the algorithm, get into more people's feeds. It'll mean so much. It's such a little effort on your part, and they even reward you. You just have to press the like button, and boom, confetti comes out. You get all these colors. Doesn't that stimulate your dopamine? Thank you. So then we just need you to come over here and press subscribe. If you aren't already subscribed to the Mega Moth Super Secret podcast, why not? We release content every week, a pretty cut and dry, a cut and dry episode of wackiness and information. I think we're a pretty great value. So you subscribe so you don't miss any more shows. If this is your first time here, you just randomly clicked on an episode, this is the time to become part of our community and watch and dive into all the other episodes. And then you might as well click the bell. It's just a double tap it, hit that bell. Boom, you got yourself notifications set up. You don't have to worry. We'll let you know. We'll just remind you like once a week that we got an episode out. And every now and then we'll release some special content, like when we release the how to play videos and the demonstration videos of the game. Every now and then you're going to get something like that. But we don't inundate, we don't flood, just a little bit here and there. So you did all that. What are a few other things that we would love for you to do? Well, if you're not listening to us on YouTube, if you're listening to us on a podcatcher, just remind all your friends we are available. You have friends who love gaming. You have friends who love taking journeys with other people, with content creators. You have friends who might never do a Kickstarter in their life, but they're curious as to what it looks like when you're inside Kickstarter. Well, tell them about our show. And you can find our show on any of the podcatching apps, specifically Apple Podcasts, great one. Spotify Podcast, I'm not a fan. I'll just admit it right here, right now. Come at me, but I'm not a big Spotify person. And what's another one? What's one that you like, Danny? Do you have one?
Yeah, AM radio. I think that's good.
Oh yeah. Coming to AM radio soon enough. I just have some permits I need to get taken care of, and then let's just say we're going to do a hostile takeover of AM radio. Now, if you've done all that, the last thing we have to ask, all those networks, everywhere you go, you can rate and review, and we're just like your Uber driver. We just need a 5-star. We want 5 stars. You could say anything. You could anything in the comments. Let us know your criticism in words. We'll read it. We swear we'll read it. But just make the star rating 5. And why don't you do that right now? If you're on Apple Podcasts, quick review. I'll tell you what to say. Here, you don't even have to worry about what you have to say. Danny and Joel are really good hosts. Period. I hope that they continue releasing shows for the years to come. ! Please listen to more of their shows. Period. Boom. There you go. A little 3-sentence review. Just, you can jazz that up if you want to, but I'd love to see how many of those we get in our review section. Anyways, with all of that said and out of the way, Danny, I think it is time for us to get to something random.
Yeah. So this week for something random, since it is a special episode, I have decided to do something that I've seen other podcasts do online. I thought this might be fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to peruse a few postings from Am I the Asshole? And Joel, your job
this
is
going to be great for
tell
clips.
Whether or not you think this person is the asshole or not.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to let you know that my reviews of these people are my judgments may be a little biased. I do have to go to the bathroom, but I'm going to power through and just note that I might be a little blangry. I'm going to coin blangry, bladder angry.
Okay. Are you sure you don't want to go to the bathroom beforehand so that you can give these people a fair shake?
Okay. I'll give myself so that I can give them a fair. I'll be right back.
Okay. That seems real reasonable. All right.
Yeah, that was a good idea. Okay.
Okay, so here we go. So what we're going to do, Joel, is we're going to do 3 of these, and you're going to let us know whether or not these people are the asshole. I guess we'll have a little discussion about it, but here we go. You ready for number 1?
Yes, I am, Danny.
Am I the asshole for not inviting someone for dinner because she made a big deal out of how she doesn't eat at the homes of people who have cats? A while back, I posted a picture on my Instagram stories of my cat sitting next to my counter as I was cooking on his own stool. He was watching. Again, he was next to my counter, not anywhere near the food. He doesn't go on counters. He doesn't go near the food. My friend, in scare quotes, Rose, reposted it with her own caption, a puke face emoji, and "you can't eat everybody's house." I guess she meant you can't eat at everybody's house. I ignored it and went about my business. She is very much the type of person who just regurgitates whatever popular phrases she sees on social media. Pineapple on pizza equals monsters. Raisin in cookies are why I have trust issues. I don't trust people who don't like dogs. Hot girl walks. Hot girl books. Delulu. I'm going to hold your hand while I tell you this. Is the ex in the room with us right now? Etc. etc. She has other traits that make up for it, but truthfully, I do tend to avoid one-on-one time with her. About a month ago, I hosted a small get-together to show off some of the La Crusette cookware I obtained. Getting older is weird. I had a whole little shindig with home-prepared food, lots of fun time between pals. I didn't invite Rose. She found out after folks posted on their Instagram stories and confronted me over it, saying that I was giving high school mean girl vibes. I told her that she had made it clear she doesn't eat at the homes of people who have cats. So why would I have invited her to a dinner party? She got defensive and said that she could have just come and not eaten anything. I said that in the future, maybe she should be more careful about what she says, because to me, it was very clear. Rose has continued to tell people I am giving high school mean girl to nurse pipeline. I'm an accountant and all that. Am I really the asshole for not inviting her? Why would she even want to come?
No, you are not the asshole at all. You are dealing with an asshole, and not only that, but an asshole who doesn't like. Yeah, I love. You gotta appreciate an asshole who knows they're an asshole. That this is a situation where this person thinks that they're somehow like like some sort of hero or voice of the people. Yeah, I don't know, and they have zero creativity. That, like you said, regurgitating. Like they're an asshole just for the fact that they just use their internet time to regurgitate things. We all repost memes from time to time. We all have a few phrases that we picked up online. But if that's your entire personality, and it sounds like it was for this person, like they're just waiting for the next new thing to drop online so that they can have something more to say, and they probably don't even understand it. They're just mimicking. They're a parrot. You're dealing with a parrot here, and parrots don't deserve your food in this situation. And yeah, that's like if you're going, I'm going. The audacity of like you could have invited me and I wouldn't have eaten anything. That's even ruder.
That's crazy.
That is crazy levels. You are not the asshole. Judgment sealed. Like I rarely do I see these things and I think it's cut and dry. Like this is one of the most cut and dry ones I've ever heard.
100%. I'm going to agree with you, Joel. The only thing I'm taking a little issue with what you said is I felt like you were slightly disparaging to parrots, but aside from that, I agree almost full-heartedly.
Yeah, well, you know how I like my parrots.
Yeah, in your belly.
All right, Danny.
Here's number 2. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Am I the asshole for dismissing my sister, saying I need to rename my son because it's on her baby list, and telling my parents she better buy the rights for names if she wants to stop people from using them? This is so petty, but maybe I went too far. I, 26 female, have an older sister, Jade, 28 female, who is not in a relationship, is not pregnant, and is not planning on having kids anytime soon. While I had my son a few days ago, I'm not close to my family. There's a very big golden child thing with Jade, and my parents really should have stopped at their first one perfect darling kid, what they call her, because I got the short end of the stick with them always. So when they found out my son's name is Finnick, Jade came and told me I could not call him Finnick and needed to rename my son because Finnick is on her baby boy name list, so she's going to use it one day and not me. I laughed in her face and I told her to leave and dismissed her request by saying she has no authority in this. My parents decided to jump in the next day and they told me I should listen to my sister and choose another name to be a good sister to Jade. They said to think about how Jade would feel, and she prides herself on that list. I decided to bring some snark into this, and my response was simply that if Jade wants to own the rights to the names, then she better get rich fast and buy those names, because otherwise she cannot stop people from using the ones on her list, not even me. For the record, I know it doesn't work like that. My parents started to freak out over this and basically told me I'm being a bully, saying things like that, and how dare I dismiss Jade. I threw them out too. And what followed was texts from Jade and my parents saying I had no reason to treat them so rudely. I blocked them. I might be done. But did I go too far? Am I the asshole?
When you get the short end of the stick your entire life, you're going to end up with some shit on your hands. But that doesn't mean that you're an asshole. So I'm not saying you're not in a situation where you're completely, like you said, you said you brought the sass. Now, granted, it was probably been meaning to happen for a long time, and I am on your side for the most part, especially nobody gets to call, like, unless she had expressly called dibs with you, like over a sleepover, over an emotional moment, and she had called dibs on the name while y'all were discussing your future plans of having children. But it doesn't sound like y'all have that kind of relationship.
Yeah, there's no pinky swearing, right?
Yeah, there's no pinky swearing. There's no trade tit for tat. It's like you get this name, I get that name. And also, this is such a unique name, though. I do have to point out that, did you know about this? Because
you clearly did.
Finnick, I don't like. I mean, hey, it's your sister, and you share something of some genes, some brain cells are going on similarly. You have similar connections to, pop culture, things like that. So I can't completely write it off, but it seems very odd that you both would come up with Finnick. That all said, it's a finicky situation, obviously, but you're right. You don't get to claim a name, and the only way you can do it amongst family and friends is to have an emotional connection with them and ask them nicely to not do, like, so I don't have any crazy, like, the thing is all the names I would give to my kids would be very down the middle. Like, they would probably have to be called their middle name in class because there's going to be another person with that name that's, in that territory. I could not see myself getting upset. And so what if there's two Finnecks in the family? Just, I just don't see the problem. And yeah, tell her to get on baby making fast, because, name rights, that's free real estate, baby. You just have to get there first.
Yeah, I'm going to go with everyone in this story is an asshole, because you it sounds like you intentionally sniped your sister's name to upset her. Because again, Finnick is a strange name. I'm not sure what would make two people in the same family really think that was a good idea to name a person. Unless it's like a long held family name, in which case, okay, fine, whatever. Jade trying to get you to go and change your child's name after it's born is a crazy thing to do. Yes. She should have just been like, all right, whatever. And then the parents trying to persuade you also. It's just, everyone's acting like an asshole. I think everyone here is an asshole. This one is, there's nothing wrong with naming your child something and then having, if someone comes and tells you to change your name, like, you're not an asshole for not doing it. But there seems to be a little bit of baiting involved here. I think that someone was trying to piss someone else off.
Oh, there's long held animosities. I think she should be a little bit more forthcoming about that aspect of this story. That's like the one thing. Yeah.
I agree. Okay, you ready for the last one? You want to take this one home on a good note? Strong?
Oh yeah. I'm feeling strong. I'm loving this.
Okay. Am I the asshole for eating all the cake at my birthday party all at once and not sharing? So last week, male 27, threw a birthday party for myself, and I invited a large contingent of my friends to celebrate with me. I've always had a fetish for eating large amounts of food in front of people because of my experience from watching the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. People really admire a person with a bottomless gut. And because I'm a little bit vain, I wanted to show off that I am capable what I am capable of. So I bought a giant chocolate cake, placed it out in the main living space where the party goers gathered for everyone to admire. And then at the right moment, I had my friend play the theme song from Rocky, and I made a grand entrance to the room without my shirt on and immediately dove into the cake. I don't just mean take a fork and start scooping pieces. I mean literally dove headfirst into the cake and started eating it as if I was playing a round of the old phone game Snake, in which I had to grab the little blocks, but in this case, I was eating delicious, floury, cakey goodness. I didn't stop until all the cake had been finished, and I had to see myself to the bathroom to vomit for a good 25 minutes straight. The admiration was beyond anything I could have ever hoped for, but the problem is it seems that several of the attendees at the party felt it was a dick move to invite a bunch of people to a party, leave a cake out for everyone to get excited about, and then within seconds destroy their hopes of ever getting a piece of said cake. Am I the asshole?
Yes. I think you are the asshole. So, did Lucas write this interpretation for you, Danny?
Yeah. This was a last minute. Hey, Luke, I need you to find something that Joel's done and write it as an "Am I the asshole" post.
Well, Lucas, I can tell you, I that's not how I recall the situation. I'm not a fan of Nathan's hot dog eating contest. It seems like he wrapped his own persona into mine, and
That's what you're nitpicking is the hot
Yeah.
dog eating.
Well, I'm not nitpicking. Well, the perspective on it, because I was, let's just say, the AU boys, Danny and Lucas, have an ability to get me to do stunts, and this was less of me thinking, oh, this would be a funny thing, and more like Lucas goading me into doing it as a fun bit that he was going to record. I didn't go in with those plans. It wasn't. I don't think it was about my own ego, but I do think it was quite fun. The music made it something. I'll say this: we're talking like one of those sheet cakes that you would get from your local grocers. It was humongous. There was no way. When we say eat, I did not eat that cake. I put every part of it into my mouth and chewed it, and then let it out of my mouth. I gobbled it. It was disgusting. It was a waste of cake. I would say I don't regret it, but I will say that if people were upset about the cake situation, then I understand completely. But I was not alone. It was not my plan. This is as much on Lucas's hands as it is on mine. I just happen to be the figurehead who everybody saw do it.
So are you saying that Lucas is the asshole in this situation?
I'm saying that let's not rewrite history. I'm saying that it takes two to tango, and somebody had the idea to eat the cake and convince somebody else to do it. That's what I'm saying. So I will say that's true. But I will say the act, I don't know how I'd have to poll everybody there, but I would never do that at this age. I don't think. If I have a cake out, I would be serving it to people. I like
that you throw in the "I don't think" there. It's not unequivocally I would never do that at this age. It's I don't think I would do that again. Yes. I don't think.
I don't think. But part of it is, I will say part of it was a little bit, should I just use the word, I don't want to say spiteful, but a little rebellious on my part, because my parents had actually bought me that cake. And my big complaint, the thing I communicated to them after they bought it was, we don't need a cake this size. Because they had bought it, I think, with the idea that we would eat it together. And I was like, we don't need a cake of this quality, of this size. We should get a much smaller cake. So I think I had written off the idea of I also have we're getting into my own psychology here, but I have issues with sugar. I just don't like the indulgence of sugar. I'm actually kind of not really even a cake person. I'll have it on occasion, as an occasion. But anyways, so to suffice to say, if you have a cake and you're thinking about showing off your eating prowess to a room full of people, stop. Wait a minute. Think about it. Don't do it.
Did you just blame your parents for you doing this?
When do I not blame my parents for what I do?
One question I do have to ask: did you really vomit for 25 straight minutes?
No, I did not for 25 straight minutes, but I did have to throw up later that night. You're just, even not eating the cake, you're just getting so much sugar instantly. Plus, let's face it, there was alcohol involved. I think the combination of sugar and alcohol in my body was like, this is bad. And so I did throw up. I don't think it was 25 minutes of throwing up. I'm pretty efficient. I'm pretty good at throwing up.
Yeah. I've seen you do that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
this
I think we've decided who the asshole is here, but we'll let the people at home let us know in the comments who they think the asshole is. Is it Joel? Is it Lucas? Is it Joel's parents? Or is it just everyone else who was at that party for not having a good sense of humor?
Yeah, 100%. Well, Danny, that was a nice little surprise there at the end, because you had me going there at the first. Well, I'm not going to say the first half. I'd say the first 30%. There was a point where I was like, "Oh, I know this story. I lived this story. I am the story." But you had me going there for a little bit. He wrote it probably because of things like the Nathans. You know, I was like, "Well, that's not me. I've done this before, but I didn't do it for vain reasons." All right, Danny. Well, so really quick, let's get back. Let's wrap this up. First of all, I have to ask Danny, what does Megamoth Studios have coming up in the near future?
Well, I would say Origins, but by the time this airs, we will probably be back from Origins.
Okay.
So I think that means that it's time to. Sorry, hiccups.
Oh no, let's get out of here.
I think that means that it is time to look ahead to Gen Con. So we will be at Gen Con in August and at the beginning of August on the dates that Gen Con are. I don't remember exactly what they are. We believe we will be doing ticketed events demoing X Seekers of Fortune. It will be a learn to play X Seekers of Fortune event. We can do 8 people at a time. We will be doing a number of them over 4 days. And we look forward to meeting a bunch of people and sharing the game with a bunch of people. If that is something that you think is exciting, keep an eye on the Gen Con website and sign up for the event. We would love to meet you in person and show you the game.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yes, I'm excited about that. As always, even if the Kickstarter is not still in progress, we will be having a pledge manager available to do late backing. So at any time, go to Kickstarter.com and look up X Seekers of Fortune and go give us your support there if you like. We would really love to have it. And finally, I'm going to go ahead and say that is it for the Megamoth Studios Super Secret Podcast for this week. I would like to thank my co-host, Danny. I have been Joel, reminding you that you must start somewhere. So why not here, with this cake in front of you, to be consumed all at once for the enjoyment of your guest. Thanks for listening. Theme music by James Holden, edited by William Langmore.
Yeah, we got to get you in front of another cake.